Hi boys and girls, welcome back to our videos, our YouTube channel. Today we decided we were going to do something March Madness themed because that's what we would be doing at school even though we're not here. So for math today we are going to work on some triple digit subtraction because that's what we've been doing, and we are going to focus on subtraction with regrouping. So I'm going to do an example problem and I'll show you on the whiteboard just to kind of jog your memory, and then we are going to do some questions together. Me and Miss Shirley are both going to do them, and then we'll show you a fun activity you can do at home once you solved all these equations. First problem we're going to do is 463 minus 274. Okay, so the first thing you want to remember is you're always going to start with the ones. So 3 minus 4. Think to yourself, can I do 3 minus 4? If I hold up 3 fingers, can I take away 4? And obviously your answer is no, so we have to borrow from the 10. So I'm going to cross out my 6, make it a 5, and then I'm going to carry the 10 over, so this becomes a 13. Now I can do 13 minus 4. So 13 minus 4 is 9. I thought you were going to answer. Okay, and then 5 minus 7. Can I do that? No. So I have to borrow over here from the hundreds. So I'm going to cross out the 4, make it a 3, and then this becomes a 15. So 15 minus 7 is 8, and then 3 minus 2 is 1. So your answer would be 189. Alright, for our next problem we have 528 minus 346. This one's a little bit different from the first one because, as you can see, in the first ones column, we don't need to borrow yet. So 8 minus 6, we know that, that's just 2. And then we move to the tens and we see 2 minus 4. So we cannot do 2 minus 4, so we have to borrow from the hundreds, make the 5 into a 4, make this a 12. So 12 minus 4 is 8, and then 4 minus 3 is 1. So your answer would be 182. Okay, the last problem we're going to do with you is one that has 2 zeros across the top. This one is really tricky, and my kids always struggle with this, but what I teach them is I say to make this into a number. So look at that as a 30 instead of a 300, and what's 1 less than 30 if we were borrowing from it? And that would be 29. So then we can carry our 1 over here and it becomes a 10. So 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So 136. Alright, now it's your turn. So Miss Shirley and I are going to write out a bunch of problems on pieces of paper. You don't have to use a half sheet of paper like we do if you don't have that much paper at home, but at the end we're going to use this paper for an activity. So don't throw it away. Try and get as many pieces of paper as you can for a fun activity, but what you're going to do is you're going to write the problem on your sheet of paper and then pause the video and solve it before you see the answer. We want you to actually get some practice in, not just copy our answers. So the first problem you're going to do, I'm going to hold it up. You can pause the screen. So go ahead and hit pause and solve it, and don't hit play until you're ready. Yep. Alrighty, so we have our answers here. We both got 235. Let's see. You cannot do 4 minus 9, so we both crossed out the 6 and made it a 5. We carried our 1 over, so 14 minus 9 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3, and 3 minus 1 is 2. So 235 is your answer. If you got that correct, good job. Just put it to the side and we will use all these papers in a minute. Alright, your next problem is 618 minus 421. So go ahead and write this on your paper and solve it. Alrighty, we both got 197 for this one. So let's see. You can do 8 minus 1, so you don't have to borrow yet. 8 minus 1 is 7. And then we cannot do 1 minus 2, so we borrow from the 6, make it a 5, carry the 1 over. 11 minus 2 is 9. 5 minus 4 is 1. 197. Alrighty, your next problem is 784 minus 619. So pause this video and solve it. All right, we both got 165. So let's see. 4 minus 9, you cannot do that. So we borrowed from the 8, made it a 7. 14 minus 9 is 5. 7 minus 1 is 6. And 7 minus 6 is 1. So 165. All right, that's 3 problems. So we want you to get up and take a break. Do 25 jumping jacks. Ready, go. Go. Alrighty, let's go on to question 4. So your problem is 455 minus 228. So go ahead and pause it and solve this problem. Alrighty, here's our answer for this one. So 5 minus 8, we can't do that, so we crossed out the 5, made it a 4. 15 minus 8 is 7. 4 minus 2 is 2, and 4 minus 2 is also 2. So 227. Alright, is that it?
Yep.
Oh, we have one more?
Oh yeah, one more.
We have one more problem. So, your next problem is going to be 600, so a double zero is one. Good job, Miss Sherlow.
For a tiebreaker.
600 minus 433. So go ahead and pause the video and solve this one. Remember our trick. Make this into a 60.
The old school way.
Okay. So I use the trick where you turn this into a 60. So 1 less than 60 is 59. So I put my 5 up here and my 9 up here. And then I made this into a 10. So 10 minus 3 is 7. 9 minus 3 is 6. And 5 minus 4 is 1. So Miss Sherlow did it a different way. And I will let her explain it, but she didn't make the 6 and the 0 into a 60. She just borrowed 1 at a time. So she will explain that.
So obviously you always start in your ones place. So unfortunately we cannot take 3 from 0. So we go to our tens. Can't do that either. So we go to our hundreds place. We're going to take 1 from the hundreds and turn that into a 5. So now we have 10 in our tens place. So don't forget, boys and girls, you can't start subtracting right away. You have to wait until we get all the way over here and have those numbers filled in. So you have 10 in your tens place now, and you're able to borrow. So your 1's going to borrow from the tens place. It will turn into a 9. And then in your 1's you have 10, and you can do 10 minus 3, which is 7, 9 minus 3, which is 6, and 5 minus 4, which is 1, and your answer is 167.
Yep, so either way we have the same answer, but you can choose which way you want to do it. I think this way is a little bit easier because it's not as many numbers that you're looking at, but if you forget and do it this way, that will work too. Alright, now for the fun. So Miss Sherlow and I are ready to ball out. Ooh. We have our 5 problems right here behind us, and we're going to crumple them up into balls so that we can shoot them. So let's do that. Okay, so we have these little baskets set up, but if you don't have these at home, which I bet you don't, you can use anything. So you can use a pot from the kitchen, you can use a trash can, I don't care what you use. You could even have somebody stand like this, and then you could shoot inside their basket, okay? So we are gonna see how many we can get. We each have 5. Let's stand at the same spot so it's fair. Is this too far? Okay, you ready?
Ready?
Go. Oh yeah. Maybe get it on the table.
Oh
yeah.
Come on.
Still didn't get it.
Nothing. Oh. Nothing. Nothing.
That's right, boys and girls. 2 right there. You want to see Mr. Low's basket? Nothing. Alrighty, that's enough math for right now. We're going to move on to some ELA. So Miss Sherlow's going to teach us about contractions.
Alright, so I put a ton of stuff in your workbooks and in your packets about contractions, thinking that we would be here on Monday, but we weren't. So I just want to give you guys a really quick lesson about contractions, and then we also have a video, an extra video, if you can get online and watch the video on Khan Academy, and it will tell you a little bit more about them. But we're gonna get started. So contractions, I know that we spent some time with our last book we read talking about formal and informal English, and we talked about things that people say maybe in their conversations that are different than what they would say if they were writing a paper or writing a sentence. So when we read Luke Goes to Bat, we said a lot of times when people are talking, they'll say things like y'all, or they might say things like go get 'em instead of them. So contractions is kind of a way to make conversation a little bit easier. So I want to start off first by telling you about the apostrophe. So the apostrophe is kind of like a comma, except for it's in the air, and you use it a little bit differently. So with an apostrophe, you guys are going to use these to help make your contractions. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So when you're using contractions, you're taking two words and you're making them into one. So some examples might be do not, or cannot, or he is. So I want you guys to think about what would be an easier way to say those things instead of saying do not, cannot, or he is. So take a minute, we'll pause the video, and you guys just see what you can come up with. What are easier ways to say those words versus both of them together? All right, so I'm hoping that you guys might have come up with some on your own. So some examples, the first one, you would take do not and it would become don't. Cannot would become can't, and he is would become he's. So you'll notice that when you do the contraction version that there are less letters, and so that's kind of the job of the apostrophe, is to fill in the spot where you are taking out those letters and where they're missing. So in this one you'll notice that we put do, and then we took the word not, we got rid of that O and dropped it and added an apostrophe in its place to make don't. And cannot, we did can, we dropped the N and the O and then added that apostrophe in its place, and then the T, and then he is, we put he's, and we got rid of that I and put the apostrophe in its place. So in your packet you'll find that there are a lot of worksheets on contractions. We're gonna go over just a few, and I want you guys to try to see what you can come up with at your house. So I'll write a few of them down on paper and you guys see what you can come up with. All right, boys and girls, so here are 4 more new ones. Your job is to try to drop some of the letters and put an apostrophe in their place to make them into contractions. So the first one is they are, she is, would have, and I am.
So you're gonna use these papers just like we did for math, right? And each one, you're gonna write the contraction on here. So you should have 4 pieces of paper when you're finished. So pause this video when she holds it up, and then when you're ready, you can press play.
All right, so the first one for they are, you would probably normally say there. So it should have been T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. So if you got that one right, good job. The next one is she is. So you guys should have made the contraction S-C-H apostrophe S. You drop the I and put the apostrophe in its place. This one was kind of tricky because you're dropping 2 letters and it's a little bit longer. So would have would turn into would have. So you spell out the word would, apostrophe V-E. And the last one, I am, you use I'm, I apostrophe M. So contractions are tricky because sometimes there's not really a rule to follow like there is in math, and some of them you just have to remember. So we'll just keep practicing these, and then as we post videos, we'll practice some other ones and introduce some different ones to you guys so that when you are completing some of the work, you have some examples. Your parents are allowed to help you, and you guys can look some stuff up online too if you need help. I think that's it.
Okay, it's game time. All right, Miss Charlotte wanted a rematch, so take your 4 pieces of paper that you just did with the contractions and crumple them up. And here we go. Okay. All right, here, let's put them like right there. Okay, you ready?
You're trying to give me an advantage.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah. Go.
Set, go. No, nothing.
Oh. Now it's crumpled up. Ooh, okay. Might be tied.
Oh!
Little post-game interview with Miss Charlotte. How do you feel?
I mean, you know, she's younger. She's better in shape. You know, I gotta hand it to her. She's got a lot going for her here. She's got a real future in shooting basketball. I will just continue teaching language arts.